So welcome to Eplo, the Extended Professional Learning Opportunity. These happen bi-monthly. So every Tuesday, there's a board meeting. We have a Eplo session. They begin from 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. They are an opportunity that gives you a chance to receive professional development that's uninterrupted after the workday. And then you have an opportunity to also be paid for participating in these Eplo sessions. Some expectations from our work. No one is admitted to the sessions after 4:45 p.m. So if you all have friends out there who are trying to, get into the session or having difficulties, please make me aware of that. But we are not admitting anyone after 4:45 p.m. Can we agree on that one? Okay. If you happen to fall out of the ranks and you need to get back in, I will kind of be checking and paying attention, but we'll get there, hopefully so. You must remain on the session the entire time and receive the evaluation link at the end of the session to be compensated for your time on this call. We will not be sending the evaluation link to you after the session. If you are an individual who cannot capture the link or is having difficulty while we're on the call, you must make me aware of that while we're on the call, and I can shoot you an email and you have to complete it with you and I together on the call. The evaluation closes at the end of the session. No evaluation, no pay. You have to complete the evaluation in order to be paid for doing this work. And you must be clocked out of Chronos. Okay? Are there any questions about anything that you see on the screen? If there are no questions that I see, we'll move right along.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought, okay, yes, I'm off of mute now. This is my third one, and I haven't received anything as of yet as far as pay go.
Okay, I will provide you with the name of the person who handles all the pay within my department at the end of the session, and we'll handle all of that offline.
Thank you, Miss Lydia.
You're very welcome. And for anyone else who having that same issue, we can resolve that by speaking offline once we get to the end of this session. And so today is November 29th, 2022. Thank you all for attending the CCS Documents and Forms Eplo session. How many of you struggled to find forms, whether it be on the intranet or just in general throughout the district, either showing a raise of hands or put a yes in the chat? I'd like to know if you are having difficulty with locating documents or anything like that. Yeah. I would love to say that there is a place, a repository that we can stick all the documents together and everyone be able to go in and find what they're looking for, but that hasn't quite been our success because some of our forms change frequently. And so for me to create something that will support you having those documents, I think will kind of be overwhelming at a time, but I'm going to point you in the direction for where some of those documents are so that you can find those with greater success in the future. And so our learning objectives today are just to discuss some of the forms, identify the locations of the forms, and then understand how to complete the forms. Are we in agreement with that? If so, let me see a thumbs up or put a 1 in the chat if we're in agreement that these are some learning objectives. All right, perfect. So for school forms, I want you all to be aware that Infinite Campus, they have a dashboard. I have hyperlinked this, so hopefully this will go right. So when you click on the Infinite Campus profile, some of you are familiar with the new look of Infinite Campus. It throws me off every single time. But when we get into Infinite Campus, under the main menu, there is a Infinite Campus dashboard, which is under documentation support. Now, under that particular tab, you all are able to see it drops you into a system that they call Confluence. And Confluence is a place where you're able to go to identify things that you're looking for that are specific to certain things based in school. So up here, I'm just going to type in the word forms. There was a little magnifying glass in the upper right corner. and I just typed in the word forms, and forms is going to drop down a whole litany of forms that we can use. And so I just wanted to show you that the Infinite Campus dashboard is one place that you can go to identify some of the documents and forms. When you're also looking for certain types of forms, you can just click specifically on the capitalization or the header that you're looking for. So for instance, attendance forms. When you click on that, you notice these other blue tabs that I'm hovering over top of: late arrival, student release forms, student absence notification forms. Those are all readily available to you. And if you just click on any one of them, the late arrival forms will pop up, and it's a PDF document, and it'll give you a portrait and a landscape version of it. So if you are one of those people who only, prints in landscape so you can put it in your binder, it's a view for you. If you're a person who does portrait and wants your binder standing up straight, you're able to print that way. And all of the forms that are listed there are portrait and landscape. And then there are also multi-language forms too that you can also find within the confines of the Infinite Campus dashboard. All right. So let's get back to the presentation. And so as you're looking at those attendance forms, you're able to see that there are, again, the portrait and the landscape version of it. You have the student late arrivals and the student release logs. What's notably different about the two? Can anyone share what they see visually different between these two forms on the screen?
One says late arrival and one says release.
Correct.
Keep talking with my thing mute on.
Another one gives a reason for release. So why is the student being released? If you are a records or attendance secretary, you're typically entering in codes that say why a student is leaving, whether that be tardy excused or tardy unexcused or doctor's appointments or whatever those things are. Reasons for release happens to be something that our district really stands firm on when it comes to capturing students' attendance within the district. So just be mindful of what you're actually looking at when you look at the forms, and the notable difference is something that will help you, especially if you are a records or an attendance secretary. Then that last column where it says entered in IC, that is a checks and balance for you. So in the hustle and bustle of your busy day, if you've got 13 kids standing at the front of you and you're entering in these attendance codes and you're like, well, where did I end? Putting that check mark on the end of that paper will certainly help you stay either in order or keep you kind of in a place where you can say, oh, okay, I remember doing that one, and then moving forward. The next thing is a timesheet. So if you are in a school building, some of your teachers are getting boarded for BLTs, TBTs. Anybody familiar with those words or those acronyms? TBTs, teacher-based teams is what a TBT is. And so you have a grouping of teachers that are in the building that meet together, and they come up with data experiences for students, and they're able to powwow and get things done as a measure of supporting the building. And so they get extended time for doing that. BLTs are building leadership teams. And so that's a group of people who come together and look at the data of the building, and they map out a plan for success for the building. So there's a couple acronyms they can use, but teachers are able to receive extended time for doing work in their building. So if you attended last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about board legislation and boarding people. And so when you're looking at the middle document here, I know it's a little fuzzy, but when you're looking at this middle document, this is the legislation that comes out. When a person turns in a timesheet, which is this last document that I'm hovering over, they need to have all three of these things, which is the project summary, the board legislation, and the timesheet in order to be able to turn in time to say that they've done some work. And so as you're looking at the extended timesheet, I want to call your attention to the upper portion of it. So where you see name all the way down to Munis account code, every single portion of that needs to be filled out in its entirety. The timesheets can be found on ESS, which is the employee self-service system, where payroll has moved the documentation to. The board legislation will be found inside of board docs, or you can get that from your region secretary. The project summary comes from Alana Dressman, who is in payroll, who assigns coding to the legislation. So if you look at these documents, they all line up and they all match. But as you're looking at the timesheet, when a person hands you the timesheet, it should have their name, their ID number, their location, the address, the phone number, all of those things. And if it's in the summer, ensure that it is a cell phone number, because they won't be in the building if someone needs to make a correction to their time. It needs to be a number they can be reached at if they expect to be paid and there's an error. Lucy, I like the suggestion about using different color paper to keep the student attendance straight. I like that a lot. Great idea. And so just to recap the timesheets, in order to actually turn in a timesheet and to get it paid by payroll, what must you have? A project summary, board legislation, and a timesheet. Those three things must be done when you're turning in an extended timesheet. Any questions? Feel free to put them in the chat. And we can go back to our 3-2-1 method. 1, meaning, hey, hold up, Lydia, I need more help. 2, we're good, you can move on, but I still got some questions I might ask you later. Or 3, we can go ahead. So where are you all at? 1, 2, or 3? Okay, lots of 3s out there. Thank you all. So how many of you are familiar with Red Rover? All right. When Red Rover came out, it was a bit of a controversy. What is Red Rover? Who's using Red Rover? Why do we use Red Rover? What's going on with Red Rover? Red Rover is that system that accounts for vacancies or attendance for substitutes or for certain classified staff members. Secretaries who are school-based secretaries actually report inside of Red Rover, because you need to create an absence for yourself or something along those lines. If there are teachers in your building, they use Red Rover to account for absences. And I believe instructional assistants also use Red Rover to either pick up jobs or to service themselves when it comes time for them to do something with creating a vacancy for their jobs. Please know that this form is not used in advance of a vacancy or an absence. It is only used to make a correction. And the form is a hyperlink. You'll receive this presentation, but the hyperlink that's right here is what will get you directly to that form. I just wanted you to see a screenshot of what it looked like. But it's a form that's got 3 pages of information, and it allows you to go in and make a correction. So in the event that you missed a punch as a sub, or someone in your building missed a punch, they would need to go in and fill out this correction form in order to be paid for the next, or for that punch that was missed, or for whatever they're trying to correct. Martina, did you have a question? I do see your hand up. Okay. Hand went down quickly.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I thought the Red Rover is, oh, it's a form, not like when you go online.
It is an online form. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that you use to create your absences.
No, this is for correcting things. It's what you would use in order to correct something. So let's say if you needed to take a day off last week and you forgot to do it, you would use this form to make that correction.
Okay, but we're still using the Red Rover to put in our absences and all that stuff, right?
Yes, ma'am. To put them in, yes, but to make a correction to something that was wrong, this is the form.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Where did you find that?
I have a question.
Yes.
I thought we were supposed to use the Chronos form to correct things.
So.
If you had a missed punch or you had something, we were supposed to go in Chronos
So
and do that self thing, whatever that's called.
So that is one way when you are correcting a Chronos for something that is not an absence. So if you just missed a punch in your building, you will use the Chronos form. But if you needed to take off a day and you forgot to add it, or you were sick, emergency sick, and didn't put your absence into Red Rover, this will be the form that you would use.
Okay.
Hopefully that was helpful. Ms. Porter, I see your hand.
You know, the way I was using this correction form was really for the certified. I really didn't use it for per classified because we always did use the other form like the other lady was speaking of.
There are only 2 classified groups that should be using this, and this is secretaries or instructional assistants. So just to make the clarifying stance,
Yes.
if you missed a swipe and you were at work, you don't need to use this form that I'm showing you on the screen. But if you use Red Rover to create an absence because you were out for a day sick, but you forgot to actually put it into Red Rover that you were out, this is the form that you would use.
Even the classified.
Classified meaning secretaries and instructional assistants. It's that
Okay.
second bullet that's on that little green area right there that I'm hovering over.
Okay, I didn't know that. Thanks.
You're welcome. Miss Ayers, sorry. Miss Carrie, did you have a
So,
question?
yeah, I do. So, you mean a correction after it's already been submitted to payroll?
Yes,
Okay, okay. That's all that I wanted. Thank you.
you're welcome. Uh-oh. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way in my presentation. I apologize. Any more questions about this Red Rover form?
Yes, this is Holly. I was asking, other than finding this, you're gonna send us this and finding this link, where else do we find this form on in the CCS website?
So let me actually get to the CCS website for you 1 second. Can you see me switch over from the presentation to the staff page?
Yes.
Okay, so under the staff page, there is the Red Rover Absence Management System link. You'll click on that link. Oh, shoot. Sorry, I went to the wrong thing. It's actually, oh, Lordy, why would you ask me? And I just did it at work. 1 second. It would be my luck that you would ask me to show you this right now, and I could not find where I got it from earlier today. Give me a second and I'll play around with it.
I was gonna say, that's fine if you want to just
I will
tell us
come back with an
later.
answer for you.
Okay,
Yep.
all right,
Give me a second, I'll have it.
thanks.
Mhm. All right, so moving to departmental forms. How many of you are a departmental secretary? You can put a yes in the chat or a 1 in the chat. I just want to know how many of you are actually departmental secretaries. Okay. Okay. So with departmental secretaries, your role and responsibilities for documents are a little bit different than a school-based secretary. And so a couple of the forms we'll be looking at are personnel requisitions, timesheets that are stipend timesheets, exemption forms for legislation, and mileage cards. And so personnel requisitions are a document that allows a person to be hired into the district at a part-time or a hourly rate. So a full-time hourly or a part-time hourly employee. This document can be found under the O drive under human resources. And at the end of this presentation, there is a link that will walk you through the path to get to the actual document that I'm showing here, because this document actually has drop downs in it. But on this particular form, every space that is blue requires a response. And so some of them are drop downs. If you notice, some of them have like a little drop down box to the right of the response. Others of them have a typable area like this title and job description. And then some things are left blank, like the board action date. You don't assign a board action date, you just submit it. And the board liaisons will then provide the date of action, meaning persons in payroll who are hiring that person will actually add the correct date for that person to this document. you must ensure that you have the project title, which would essentially be the same as the title and the job description, just if it's a part-time hourly tutor, part-time hourly teacher, something along those lines would go right there. And then you would include the full line of coding. That full line of coding is either grant or general funded. And so you would get whatever coding or whoever would have that coding, whether that be state and federal funds or the treasurer's office, that could provide you with the actual funding source. This particular document is one that still requires blue ink and original signatures. After you've gotten all of your original signatures in your office, you then send it to Janice Tom. Janice Tom then sends it over to Letitia Pleasant over in HR, and they then do all of the work that's necessary to get an individual hired into the district or hired into that particular role of either being a full-time or a part-time hourly employee. Any questions about this form? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. So again, 2 weeks ago, we talked about board legislation and we identified stipends was a form of payment that an individual could receive. Please note that stipends do not come from anyone. You have to go and find this documentation, which is out on employee self-service. It is the last document listed under the resources tab. And so what you need in order to submit a stipend to payroll is you need the stipend timesheet, which is this last document. You need to have the board legislation and also a timesheet. Along with, under number 3, either a sign-in sheet, an agenda, a copy of the published product, or evidence of additional duties that were completed. And so along with having the stipend timesheets, and the board legislation, you need to have evidence. Okay, what's different between an extended timesheet and a supplemental service stipend timesheet? The packet that needs to go down to payroll, what is the difference? That is correct, Christina, the evidence. The evidence is what makes it different. You have to provide proof that something happened as a measure of them getting supplemental service or the stipend. And where the money comes from, you are correct. That is also a difference as well. Stipends come from an individual's department or a sub-department that they might be doing some contract work for within the district. So the funding source could potentially be different based on that. Now, for some of you who do legislation for goods or services, things that are over $25,000, and Ms. Folks, yes, you have always had to have evidence for stipends, not for extended time, but always for stipends. The thing that sets board legislation apart is that there is one that is for people, and then there is another that is for goods or services. And the one that's for goods or services deals with exemptions. And the exemptions come into place because an exemption simply says that we don't have to go through the RFP process, request for proposal process, in order to get a vendor to do work for us. And so we as a district have to then provide explanation as to why. And so what you see over to the left is a single versus sole source document that can be found on the purchasing site on the intranet. And when you find this particular document, you'll read over the portions of it that identify what the difference between a single and a sole source is all about. The reason why this form is attached to the document that is to the right of it is because as you run down this form, everything between the date and the purchase price needs to be completed. You will provide the date for when the board legislation needs to happen, who the requester is, the building or department, the vendor name, meaning the person who will be providing the service to you, the items purchased, that could be a consultant, that could be bounce houses, whatever the good or service is. The purchase price should be over $25,000 or greater. All of those areas being completed, are one part of this document. We then move down to the reasons for exemptions. And again, if you are exempting yourself from doing the RFP process, you have to explain why. And so the why behind it is either the purchase is an emergency or considered extremely urgent. And that pushes everything past the point of needing to go through the RFP process, because that typically takes anywhere between 4 months to about 6 months to complete in time. The item was competitively bid less than 180 days ago, so it had already gone through the RFP process for someone else, and we just wanted to use that particular vendor because they had already done all of the work before. And then the final one, the products, parts, or services are only available from a single or a sole source. So the document to the left explains what a single or a sole source is. Ms. Claiborne, I'm going to pick on you for just a second because your school actually has legislation that has a sole source that we are very familiar with. And so CAUSE has an IB program, Interbaccalaureate. I can never say it right, so hopefully I said it right tonight. But they have an IB program that they initially do board legislation for. And with their board legislation, the IB company is the only company that provides this particular service, making them a sole source. There's no other company that provides that service. A single source would then say that there is another company out there that can provide the service, but this company that we're choosing is uniquely qualified for some reason to do the work. And what you then have to do is provide an explanation in this area right above the signatures about why you're selecting that company to be a single or a sole source vendor. Okay. And then it just requires a signature from your administrator. But if it's over $25,000 or greater, it requires 2 signatures. That from either Mr. Bohoric or someone else who is a designee listed in this roster of people. Any questions about this exemption form? And if you are familiar with board legislation that legislates goods or services, you should be familiar with this particular document. All right, everybody, are we at a 3, 2, or 1? 3, let's go, Lydia. A 2, hold up. A 1, I need your help. Drop that in the chat for me. 3, 2, 1. Yay. I see you 3s out there. All right. Ladies are rocking it. The electronic mileage card. How many of you are familiar with that orange, long, rectangular document? All right. Wonder if I told you that you could stop probably using that thing. And there's a thing called an electronic mileage card that you just type that information into. Would that make your life a little bit easier? Ms. Teresa, hand raised. Would that make your life easier? Yeah. Yep. And so.
Yes.
Good. I'm glad to know that. So I will be sharing out this resource with you once we are all done in regards to the electronic mileage form. So you all could essentially use this and pass it out to your teachers, have them complete it, and they could then calculate their own mileage using Google Maps or MapQuest or whichever. I think it's Google, though, is what our district uses for them to calculate their own mileage. It actually adds it up, tabulates it, gives a total, and it requires signatures. I wanted to share with you all, though, the actual price for, or the rate of mileage has changed. So January 1 through June 30, 2022, the rate was 58 cents, 58.5 cents per mile. After July 1, it went to 62.5 cents per mile, and that's good through the rest of the year. I don't know if 62.5 will be the same rate for 2023, but that is currently what it is until 2022. And I found that particular document on the IRS mileage rate reminder form area. When you just type in irs.gov and you can type in mileage and it'll populate this document for you. The electronic mileage card is something that I'll be sending out to you. It is not live on any CCS platform currently, but it is one that we're trying to get out there. it will cut down your costs on having to buy those mileage cards and using up your funds. And you can then turn that directly into accounts payable. Miss Sherry, yes, you must have a purchase order in order to do mileage, and you have to have a vendor number as well. And so on the bottom of the mileage, so you have your name, your periods covered, your school and your department, and then a PO and a vendor number. You must have those two things also in order to submit this, but you must have a purchase order in place. And so when you're looking at the mileage card, I want you to pay attention to the dates, and then it has a from and a to and the miles. You can only put from one location to one location and the number of miles. If it's a round trip, you can just do that on the next line and just make it from the to location to the from location. So it's a flipped around trip there. Are there any questions about what you should be putting line per line for mileage? Okay, I see no heads nodding. How many of you have ever attempted to order from the print shop and just didn't know what to do? I used to be that secretary who had no idea where to find stuff for the print shop. So I'd like to give you some knowledge about where to find some of these things for the print shop. So our district currently has a really pretty intranet site. And because I am home, it will not allow me to share with you the intranet site. So let me see if I can get to my Citrix and actually share with you all. Aha, might be doing something here. Nope, it won't. Maybe. Oh yeah, perfect. So the district has this beautiful intranet page that you typically see when you're logging in. Didn't know what made me do this. One moment, please. Can you all still see my page? Okay. So when you get to the intranet page, which looks like this currently, you'll notice if you scroll down that there is a previous intranet site. Click on it. That's a really amazing place because this is what our CCS intranet used to look like up until 9/28/2021. Some people don't use this, but it still has viable places for you to go. So if you're looking for things in purchasing, you're going to click on departments. Departments will bring up all of these things, and you'll look at the longest one, which is purchasing, delivery services, print service, and warehousing. You'll click on this particular location, and it will allow you to get into print services. So if you're wanting to order 10-inch envelopes that have your school name in the upper left corner, you can order those right here. They are $500 per box, $13 a box, and our print shop will take care of that for you. You must have a requisition in order to purchase through the print shop. But that's one thing you can do is order letterhead for your building. Another thing, I'm sorry, those are envelopes. Another thing you can do is order letterhead specifically for your building. And that letterhead will just have your location, your department name, all of those things in the upper left-hand corner, upper right-hand corner, wherever you'd like that to go. And you can get a ream of letterhead for $25. You must have a requisition in place in order to do that. There is also business card ordering. And so the actual print shop has a work request form, which is very generic in nature. And so you're able to go in and just type in whatever information you'd like to type in these squares. It allows you to type within the document. And so you can type your school name. If I can type Columbus Downtown High, you would enter your requisition number here. And typically your requisition number is just going to be whatever it is before it converts to a purchase order. but you get approvals. It asks you for when do you need it by, you give a description of what it is that you're looking for, or you can select down here what you're looking for. And so if you need black and white color copies, if you need things hole punched in mass quantity, if you're looking to have, you know, blizzard bags or summer packets printed off, you can do that as well. There are also opportunities for you to get things made in our district that you would typically get made at like a FedEx or Kinko's. Our district has the ability to do that. You can find our print shop at Downtown High School, and they also provide those services. The one piece of resistance, though, are business cards. How many of you have been looking to purchase business cards for someone in your building or your department? This is the form. But not only do you need this form, you have to use what they call a business card order form, which is an Excel spreadsheet that they export the information from, and they then complete the business cards based off the information that you put into the document. And so the document just asks you for a few things like your name, department address. It asks you for all those things so they can export it and put it on the business card. So in order to make a request for a business card, you have to turn in a couple of things in order for that to happen. Is there anyone with any questions about anything? Are we at a 3, 2, or a 1? 1, hold up. 2, I like it. I might need some more help later. 3, let's move on, Lydia. We 3-ing? All right. I love it when you all are 3s. Give me 1 second to get back to the presentation. All right, so we're now down to the links and resources for this. And so as I mentioned before, there was the Infinite Campus dashboard. All of you have access to Infinite Campus who are school-based secretaries. And some departmental secretaries also still have access to Infinite Campus. But the dashboard is the link that is right below, right behind Infinite Campus dashboard, where you can click and get directly to the dashboard. Timesheets. This will get you to the employee self-service site where you can actually find those particular documents. That Red Rover change form is listed right here. That's the link for that. The personnel requisition, this is the O-Drive path that you would take in order to get to personnel requisitions. So are there any questions about anything that you've heard tonight?